You ever wonder why the more love you give, the more she pulls away? You give your time, your energy, your attention, your full focus. You reply fast. You ask her how she's feeling. You plan dates. You compliment her. You try to show her you care. You think, if I love her more, she'll feel safe, she'll stay, she'll choose me. But she doesn't. Instead, she becomes cold, dry, distant. Her replies? Short. Her eyes? Somewhere else. And now you're confused. You did everything right, didn't you? You followed the advice. Be vulnerable. Be emotionally available. Show her she's special. But here's the truth. You didn't love her wrong. You just gave her something she didn't even value. Let me break it to you slow. She didn't want love. She wanted attention. Your presence, your energy, your focus. Not because she loves you deeply, but because it feels nice. It feels good to be wanted. It strokes her ego. It makes her feel important. Even if she doesn't want you as a man, even if she's not ready for anything serious, even if she's texting 5 other guys, your attention, still delicious, still useful, still fuel. But here's the danger. The more she gets it, the less she respects it. Because something that's always there, that's easy to get, that doesn't require effort, it stops being exciting, it stops being valuable. And once that happens, she doesn't chase it, she expects it, and you become what? The entertainer, the comfort pillow, the backup plan. You ain't her man, you're her attention supplier. You give, she takes, and she never gives back. Not because she's evil, but because you made it easy. So now you're in a trap, not just any trap, a silent one, a sweet one, a dangerous one, because it doesn't feel wrong at first. It feels like love, but it's not. It's a game where you think giving more will win her heart, when in truth, it's what's making you disappear. Now pause, ask yourself, have I become the guy who gives everything just to be noticed? If the answer is yes, you're feeding something that will never feed you back. But here's the shift. What if you didn't feed it? What if you created space? What if you started showing up for yourself instead of showing up every second for her? Because that space, that distance, that mystery, it creates value. It makes her wonder. It makes her miss you. It's not about being cold or playing games. It's about waking up and choosing to stop giving your soul to someone who only wants your shadow. This is where your power begins. Let's talk about chasing. Feels natural, doesn't it? You like her. She pulls away, so you run after her. Try to get her back. You text more, call more, ask her if something's wrong. You even overthink your last message, like it's a final exam, and it feels noble, like you're being the good guy, the caring man, the one who fights for her. But here's the punch to the gut. Chasing doesn't create love. It kills attraction, because the moment you chase, you flip the power. You become the one trying to prove your worth, trying to be chosen, trying to convince her you're enough. And guess what? That energy, she feels it, she smells it like cologne. The neediness, the desperation, the hidden fear that says, I'm scared to lose you. And that's not love. That's fear in disguise, and fear never attracts, it only repels. See, when you chase, you send one clear message: I don't think I'm the prize, you are. And whether she knows it or not, her instincts react. She may like the attention at first, but slowly the respect fades, the mystery dies, the chase is over, because you made yourself easy, too available, too willing, and women don't value what they don't have to earn. Let me put it in plain words. You gave her a trophy she didn't compete for, and now she doesn't care if it collects dust. You may be thinking, but isn't love about effort? Yes, but not one-sided effort. It's not about sprinting toward someone who's slowly walking away. It's about mutual pull, shared gravity, two people orbiting each other, not one doing laps. Here's what chasing really shows: that your life is empty without her, that you need her attention to feel okay, that her ignoring you only makes you want her more, and that right there is emotional slavery, not stoic, not strong, not manly. You don't need to chase, you need to pause to remember you are the mountain, she is the wind, and the mountain never runs after the wind. Stand still, breathe deep, build your life, let her come to you, or let her drift. Either way, you remain powerful. So let me ask you this. What if the reason she's not choosing you is because you keep trying to prove you're worth choosing? What if, instead of running after her, you walked away calmly and let her feel the silence? Ever noticed what happens when you disappear? Not in a dramatic way, not with a storm, but in stillness, quiet, calm. You stop calling, stop texting. You don't chase, you don't explain. You just vanish from her world for a bit. And suddenly, something shifts. Now she's thinking, now she's wondering, now she's feeling the space you left behind. This is the power of absence. It's not a trick, not a tactic. It's a law of human nature. We don't value what's always there. We don't crave what we can predict. Think of your favorite song. If you played it on loop every second of the day, would it still give you chills, or would you get tired of it? That's what your constant presence does to her. It dulls the senses, it floods the space, it removes the tension. But when you step back, when you live your life, when you stop feeding her attention like it's candy, she feels the lack of it, and lack builds value. Because now she remembers your energy, your vibe, your words, your silence. Silence is not empty, it's a mirror. It shows her how much she was depending on your presence without even realizing it. She starts asking, why hasn't he messaged? Did I do something? Is he with someone else? Was I the one getting fed by his attention the whole time? And those questions, they create gravity, not because you played a game, but because you finally stepped into your power. See, your absence isn't rejection, it's a signal. It says, I've got things to do. I don't live for your replies. My world doesn't revolve around you. That message, it's rare, it's attractive, it's unforgettable. Because most men, they never leave space. They flood her inbox. They react to every post. They try to stay relevant. But you become mysterious, unpredictable, strong. And mystery is magnetic. Now listen close. This isn't about waiting to see if she comes back. This isn't about holding your breath. This is about getting your breath back. It's about you, reclaiming your time, reclaiming your focus, living in a way where your absence is felt, not forced. You don't have to announce it. You don't even need a reason. Just be gone, without noise, without blame, because here's the truth. Real power doesn't chase, it attracts, and attraction grows in the space you leave behind. So ask yourself, are you brave enough to be missed? Or will you keep trying to stay present in a space where your presence is no longer respected? You are not her entertainment. Let me say something that might sting a little, but it needs to be said. You are not her Netflix. You are not her dopamine button. You are not here to keep her from getting bored. But too many men, they act like they are. They text her every hour. They reply to her stories like it's a job. They drop their day just to make her smile. But you know what happens? She gets used to it. She expects it. And then she stops feeling it. You become like background music, always there, but never noticed. Here's the hard truth. Women don't fall in love with the man who gives them entertainment. They fall for the man who gives them experience. And experience isn't something you give by force. It's something they feel by your presence, by your depth, by the way you live a full life without needing them to clap for it. Let's break it down. She posts a story. You react. She posts another. You reply. She posts a third. You say, you look amazing. And what happens? Nothing. No spark. No effort from her. No depth. Why? Because she's not looking for love. She's looking for attention, and you're giving it away like candy on Halloween. But when you stop playing that game, when you stop being her 24/7 audience, she notices something new. Your absence becomes louder than your presence ever was. She thinks, wait, where did he go? Why isn't he replying? Is he not obsessed anymore? And suddenly, you're not boring. You're not predictable, you're not easy, you're valuable, because now she feels the gap, and only rare men create that kind of gap. But here's the thing, you're not doing it to get her back. You're doing it to get yourself back. You were never born to be a side character in someone else's world. You're the main character in yours. You've got stuff to build. You've got a body to train, a mission to lead, a mind to sharpen. And once you start living like that, you stop worrying about her replies. You stop needing her attention, because you're too busy becoming a man who commands it without asking. Let's be real. If you disappeared for a week and she didn't notice, she was never into you. She was into what you gave her. Validation, excitement, company, but never you. So stop feeding her boredom. Stop being her late-night scroll fix. You're not her entertainer. When you chase, you blind yourself. Let's be honest, you think you're chasing love, but what you're actually chasing is a feeling, that rush, that excitement, that little hit of validation when she replies with a heart emoji. But you ever stop and ask, what am I really chasing here? Because if you did, you'd see something crazy. You're not chasing her, you're chasing the idea of being chosen. That's the trap. You're so focused on being picked, you never stop to look at who is doing the picking. And bro, that's dangerous, because the moment you make her the prize, you lose the ability to see clearly. You start excusing disrespect. You start ignoring red flags. You start tolerating nonsense, all because you've decided, I just need to win her. But you know what happens when you do that? You betray yourself. You bend. You overextend. You start auditioning for a role that was never even written for you. Here's the truth nobody says. Love isn't about winning. It's about matching. And if you're the only one trying, that's not a relationship, that's a performance. And you're the only actor on the stage. You want real value? Step back, not to punish her, not to make her miss you, but to see her for who she is, without your emotions blocking the view. Detachment clears your vision, and when your vision is clear, you stop overrating women just because you're lonely. You stop thinking she's the one just because she gave you attention for 3 days straight. You stop thinking chemistry is compatibility. Big difference. Chemistry is a spark. Compatibility is the whole damn fire. And guess what? If you're chasing her, you're too busy running to even notice if the fire's real. You need stillness. That stillness creates awareness. And that awareness, that's your protection. That's your power. Because once you see clearly, you choose better. You lead better. You live better. And suddenly, you're not chasing anymore. You're selecting. You're the one who evaluates. You decide who fits. You no longer shrink yourself to fit into someone else's box. You build your own frame, and they either fit or fade. And guess what? That's what rare men do. You become so grounded in who you are that chasing feels like a waste of energy, because it is. You're not meant to chase. You're meant to create. And then watch who chooses to stay. Let me ask you something. Why does she text you only when she's bored? Why does she flirt heavy then disappear for days? Why does she miss you but only when nothing better is happening? It's not love, bro. It's entertainment. You have become her favorite distraction. Not her man, not her priority. Just a vibe when the world is quiet. Let that sink in. You're there when she's lonely. You're there when her plans fall through. You're there when she wants attention, comfort, energy, but never when you need something real. She craves the emotion, not the commitment. She doesn't want the full meal, just the flavor. And the craziest part, you're giving it to her on demand, like Netflix, like a playlist, like something she can pause and resume later, because you trained her, you taught her that you're always around, you reply fast, you cancel plans, you always say yes. So now she doesn't even value your presence, because it's too easy. That's what happens when you give without awareness, when you show up every time, no matter what. You become predictable, you become safe, you become forgettable, and guess what? She'll never respect what she doesn't value, she'll never value what she doesn't earn, and she'll never earn something that's always given. That's where detachment changes the game. When you remove your energy, you remove her comfort. When you stop being her entertainment, she starts realizing what your presence actually meant. Now don't get it twisted. This ain't about punishment. It's not about showing her. It's about realizing you don't exist to entertain. You have a mission, you have a purpose, you have energy that deserves focus, so why waste it trying to impress someone who only hits you up when she's bored? Detach from that role. You're not her performer. You're not her dopamine hit. You're not her escape. You're a man with a life, and she can either respect that life or be absent from it. Your time is sacred, and once you start treating it like that, they either rise to your standard or vanish from your circle. Either way, you win. Silence is louder than words. Ever notice something strange? When you don't text her, when you don't check in, when you don't chase, suddenly she shows up. Suddenly she remembers you. Suddenly your silence is louder than all your words. But why? Because silence creates uncertainty, and uncertainty triggers curiosity. Curiosity triggers desire, not because you're playing games, but because you've stopped being predictable. See, most men are too loud, too obvious, too available. They express everything. They reveal too much. They don't leave any mystery. And when there's no mystery, there's no tension, no pull, no reason to lean in. But a man who's quiet, a man who's calm, a man who doesn't need to explain himself every 10 minutes, that man becomes rare because he's not performing, he's not reacting, he's not chasing a response, he's just being. And that makes a woman lean forward. Because silence makes her question, is he losing interest? Is he busy with someone else? Did I mess up? What is he thinking right now? Now she's thinking about you. Now she's wondering about you. That's power, not loud, but strong. You ever walk away from a conversation and the silence leaves a bigger impact than the talk itself? That's how high-value men operate. They speak less. They do more. They live more. They're not out here writing novels over text. They're not updating people every second, because their life is full, because their peace is intact, because their time is being spent on things that actually matter. You know what else silence does? It shows emotional discipline. You're not begging for attention. You're not trying to prove you care. You're not trying to make her feel something. You let her mind do the work. Let her thoughts chase you. And if she doesn't? Good. You just filtered out someone who was never serious. Because a woman who respects your silence, a woman who feels your absence, that's a woman worth showing up for. But a woman who only responds when you make noise, she was never truly with you. She was only with your energy, your effort, your noise. So take a step back. Let your silence do what your words couldn't. Be calm, be quiet, be still, and in that stillness, you'll find a power most men never taste. Never be the source of her ego. Here's a truth most men don't want to admit. She's not always talking to you because she likes you. Sometimes she just likes the attention. Not you, not your mind, not your heart, not your purpose, just the way you make her feel about herself. Let that sink in. When you compliment her 24/7, when you always respond in seconds, when you check in, validate, and reassure her constantly, you're not loving her, you're feeding her ego. And here's the kicker. The moment you stop feeding it, she disappears. Because it was never about connection, it was about consumption. She used your attention like oxygen, not because she respected you, but because you gave it too freely. And men who give it too freely are never seen as rare. They become background noise, always there, always available, always giving. But you weren't born to be someone's emotional battery pack. You weren't made to be a vending machine for compliments. You're not here to top off her self-esteem every time it drops. Because the more you give without value in return, the more she associates your presence with emotional convenience, not emotional significance. So what do high-value men do differently? They observe. They don't rush to flatter. They wait to see who earns their energy. They understand this. A woman's ego should never be built on a man's desperation. If she can't validate herself, your words won't save her. If she only sticks around when you feed her self-worth, she was never here to build something real. So take a step back and ask, does she like you, or does she like the mirror you hold up for her? Because here's how you protect your value. You don't compliment too fast. You don't reward bad behavior. You don't overgive to underinvestors. Let her feel the absence of your attention. Let her notice when the validation stops. Let her wonder why you pulled back, because when she realizes that your attention is earned, not expected, she'll either rise to meet your standard or disappear, which is a win either way. In a world full of men trying to impress, be the one who observes. Let her ego find its own fuel. Let your value speak for itself, and never forget, you are the prize. Master the art of saying nothing. Here's a skill that separates boys from men: the power of silence. Not fake silence, not silence filled with anxiety, not the kind where you're just waiting for her to speak first. I'm talking about intentional, powerful silence, the kind that makes her feel your presence, even when you say nothing at all. Because here's the truth: the one who talks less always holds more power. When you always explain yourself, always tell her how you feel, always pour out your thoughts hoping she'll understand, you give away the mystery, you give away the challenge, and once she figures you out, once she realizes you have no control over your emotions, she loses interest. You become predictable, and predictable is never powerful. High-value men don't speak to be heard. They speak only when needed. They don't chase arguments. They don't over-explain. They let their actions do the talking. And when they do speak, every word hits harder, because silence was the setup. Remember this: emotional control is not loud, it's quiet, it's calm, it's still. The man who pauses before he speaks, dangerous, not because he's angry, but because he's centered. And women feel that. They feel that you're not here to prove anything. You're not reactive. You're not desperate to fix every situation with words. Instead, you hold eye contact. You listen more than you talk. You say what needs to be said and nothing more. She starts leaning in. She starts wondering. She starts trying to decode your stillness. And that's when you've already won. Because in a world of noise, a man who says less becomes the loudest in the room. So here's your challenge: don't argue to win. Don't text just to stay in her mind. Don't over-explain your standards. Say less, mean more. Let your silence create space for her curiosity, because when she starts wondering, she starts chasing, and when she starts chasing, you hold the frame. Stillness is power, silence is strategy, and a man who masters both, unstoppable. Do you want to know the final weapon that makes her see you as a rare and unforgettable man? Create waves, not availability. Let's end with a weapon so rare, so untouchable, that when you master it, you'll never need to chase a woman again. Here it is. Don't be predictable. Be a pattern she can't solve. See the average guy? He's always available, always replying fast, always around, always reachable, always present. And what happens when you're always available? You become common. Let me break this down. Imagine your favorite song. You loved it the first 20 times, but then you played it every single day, on repeat, non-stop. Soon enough, it lost its magic. That's how attraction dies when a man is too present. Not because he's bad, but because he's predictable. Women don't crave what's always in front of them. They crave what feels rare, hard to access, and mysterious. So instead of always being there, start creating waves. Be the man who disappears strategically, not to play games, but to protect your energy, to invest in your mission, to let her feel the weight of your absence. And when you return, she values your presence like gold. Scarcity makes value rise, even in love, especially in love. So stop replying instantly. Stop trying to prove you care through constant presence. Stop assuming that more attention, more attraction. Start living like your time is precious, because it is. You're not cold, you're focused. You're not ignoring, you're building. You're not playing games, you're creating distance that fuels desire. When she can't predict your moves, when she doesn't know if she'll hear from you today or next week, that's when her mind starts racing. That's when she starts valuing you like she never did before, because you're not trying to be her emotional pillow. You're the storm she can't predict. And storms leave an impact. So remember, always being there makes you forgettable. Being strategically absent makes you unforgettable. And a man who knows how to create emotional space, he becomes the obsession. You are not here to prove your worth. You are here to protect your value. She must feel the cost of your attention. Only then will she respect it. Only then will she chase it. Only then will you become the rare and valuable man she'll never forget. This completes the journey. Now ask yourself, are you ready to stop chasing and start being chased?